Hey guys, welcome back to the Bee Yard. It's a really nice day here in upstate New York, and today we are going to do a split, which is we take an established hive, we take some eggs and some food, we stick them in a separate box, and then we leave them to make a queen of their own. And then we're going to check on the progress of the queen being released from this package that arrived last Thursday. So let's get into it. So what we're going to do today here is we're going to open up this Italian hive that came last year from one of the local suppliers. They survived the winter, they've done really well, the genetics seem to be pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two top boxes off here, these supers, and we're going to take some frames of very young eggs out. We're going to put them into a nuke box with some food and some pollen, and then we're going to leave them to figure it out for themselves and make their own queen, which should take about 16 days or so. And then from there this would allow them to actually create a queen of their own. She goes and gets mated a week later, and then after that she comes back if she survives and she starts to lay eggs and build the colony. And after that we will move the nukes into full-size hives when they've built everything out. So let's do it. Now, Italians have a reputation of being mild-mannered, but as you can see these guys are far from mild-mannered, and they are more than a little bit agitated about us being here. So the quicker we do this, the quicker we can close them up again. So a little bit of smoke there at the entrance. So once the smoker hasn't gone out, and then we will pop the lids. And again, we're going to give them a bit of smoke, because they are going to be a little bit cross. Whenever you open the hive, it's a major disruption for them. And as you can see, we have a queen excluder here, this white thing, because I found that they were laying up here in this top box, and I'd like to be able to collect honey, and I don't need to have larvae in my honey. Take this lid off, shake these guys off, and as you can see, this one's got a bum up in there basically saying we're under attack, help. But the quicker we do this, the quicker we can move on to something else. So we'll take this box off, which is actually pretty heavy. As you can see, they're already starting to lay down wax on this. So as you can see, they're a little bit cross, which is why we have a full bee suit on today. Go, and then we're going to take this box off the top. Now, this is what we're looking for. This is the top of the brood chamber. As you can see, there's a lot of bees, not just attacking me but on the frames. So what we're looking for here, to drive these guys down, is we are looking for frames with brood and very young eggs. And by young, I mean laid in the last couple of days. We're looking at getting to as close to the middle of the brood chamber as possible. So, let's gently lift this frame up. And as you can see, we have got we've got pollen on the edges, we've got capped broods, and in the middle, I'm not sure if the camera can pick this up, but we actually have eggs. So what we're actually looking for is a couple of frames of eggs and some frames with resources on. So we're going to put this frame here, and then we're going to continue through the middle of the brood chamber. We also need to take nurse bees with us as well, because if we don't have nurse bees, then the eggs won't become queens. So as you can see, this is a nice frame. There are bees in all stages of development on both sides. We've got some nectar in here as well. So we put this frame down here. And then we're going to take this frame in the centre. Obviously we're looking for the queen as well, because we don't want to transfer her into the other box. Otherwise this colony would be in trouble. So we've got 3 frames of broods. Another reason to do this is also to prevent the potential for swarming, because when they run out of room today, this sends a signal to them that they need to move on, and when they do that, do is we replace the frames that we took with white frames. We also want to look to see if we have a frame which is just honey, because that's going to obviously help fuel their little endeavour. Here we have a frame which is purely honey, so we'll stick that in here. That gives them something to munch on. And I'll put another frame in here. Okay, and then we're going to move these frames that are down here into we also want to make sure that we take the nurse bees. But we actually have frames here that have capped brood, so they'll soon replenish the numbers in a matter of minutes. Also important not to separate the brood chamber, but to keep them in the same alignment bonus, we actually have potential queen cells already. So these guys were already considering swarming. So now, oops, let's move you over here. So now we have a nice little cluster in the nuke box. We put several frames in the centre that had broods in all stages of development. We put one over here which is a food source for them. We just need to kind of line these frames up. And then what we do is we put the lid on and we leave them completely alone for about 2 weeks or so, and then we check on them. So here's the lid. And now the main colony that we got these hives from, well, they actually think they've swarmed, which of course obviously they haven't. But we'd like them to think that they've swarmed, and that way they don't have the idea that they need to swarm. So they are at this point wondering where the other frames have gone, obviously. But go. Helps if the hive is actually facing the right direction. But they will soon draw these frames out, and it'll be business as usual for them. So at this stage, the only thing left to do with this hive is to reassemble them, close them up, and move on to the next. And the beauty of a split like this is it doesn't actually really matter which one has the queen, because if we accidentally move the queen from this hive into the other one, they'll just simply make their own queen. And we are reaching the season where swarming actually starts. Of course, we've got to put the excluder back in. Some of the professional beekeepers on YouTube, but that's okay. So we'll put this back on here. The idea is the workers and the nurses can get through these slats, but the queen can't, because she's a little bit too little. The queen is about double the size of a worker, and a fully mated queen can be sometimes 3 times as big. So we'll leave these guys now for about a week, let them calm down a bit, and then we'll check the nuke here that we've just created to see if they've made themselves a queen. If they don't, and that sometimes happens, the life expectancy of the colony is significantly diminished and they can't recover from not having a queen. That's basically curtains for them. So moving on here, here's the colony that we created from a set of package bees that came last week. Apart from the hive needing to be levelled, which I will do at some other point, the only thing I'm going to do today with these guys is open them up and check and see if the queen has been released from her cage. If she has, we don't have to do anything. If she hasn't, we'll leave it another couple of days and take another look, and if she still isn't out, which sometimes happens, we'll just, you know, gently pry out the candy and let her actually out of her cage. A part of the reason why it takes a few days for them to actually chew her out and release her from the cage is they have to get used to the actual smell of that queen. Because generally what happens is you buy, they weigh out 3 pounds of bees, and these could have come from several different colonies, and then they slap a random queen in with her that they haven't dealt with before. And having her in a cage for a few days gives them a chance to get used to the pheromone of the queen and accept her as essentially the matriarch of the colony. So today we're just going to pop the lid and take a quick look and see if she's been released. So as before, a little bit of smoke at the front entrance just to confuse them, and then we put some smoke under the lid, give that a second to percolate. It's usually a good idea to work from behind the hive. That way you're not on their flight path when they're coming and going, and that doesn't piss them off as much. So this is a very, very new colony. I don't really expect them to do very much, but this is from a colony that we lost last year. So there is already resources in the hive for them to actually build from. And they're already procrealizing things. Look at that. They're already building comb in places where we don't need them to build it. So, as someone in the comment section asked about feeding, I have a shim board here and I have a protein patty. I also have some sugar, you know, just raw sugar out of the kitchen, and they will kind of feed on that. It takes them a while, but they will feed on it, and that gives them something to munch on. So what we're going to do is we're just going to lever up this queen cage. Very often they'll also cement these in place, which can be a little bit challenging. Okay, so they're still chewing away at the plug, the candy plug that's put in here. But as you can see, they are feeding her and cleaning her. There's also no obvious aggression from the attendant bees here. We can just move them over a little bit. So as you can see, the bigger of the two, the bigger one that's in there is the queen. But they are feeding her and they are looking after her through the mesh of the actual frame of the box. So that's exactly what we're looking for. And then what we'll do is we'll just essentially put her back where she was. There we go. They're also making inroads on this protein patty, and while I probably could get another frame in here, I'm not really going to risk it at this point until they're done with the sugar. So these guys are actually doing relatively well, and they've got a head start on all the beehives I started last year because they already have resources that they can use. So we're pretty much done with these guys, and now all we're going to do is line up the shim and then put the lid on. And then in about 2 weeks we will check on the 2 nukes that we created, and then from there we will when they're stronger, we will transfer them into bigger boxes. Any questions, put them down in the comments and I will try and get back to you as quickly as possible. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Have an awesome day, guys.